This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is Financial Insanity, the show we're going to take the chaos of the market and turn into a clear path for your financial future. As always, I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean from McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown. And Scott today is going to help us figure out if our portfolios are as safe as we think that they are. Are we just riding a risk roller coaster? We're talking about that today. And if you have questions about anything we discussed today, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. But Scott's looking at your portfolio. Is it really safe? Important topic.
It is an important topic, Alex, and most people are totally unaware. The biggest mistake I find with seniors is they really don't understand, and or other advisors that are in the growth mode, they don't understand the risks that come, the difference between growth and income. And so I really wanted to hone in on this because people like to have that steady income. They like to have that ability and capability of knowing the check's going to show up on the first of every month when they go to the mailbox or they go to their bank account. It's showing up there. So I appreciate us talking about risk in 5 different areas I hope we're able to cover today, Alex. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And Scott, when people think of their portfolio, do you think people are generally feeling like it's a safe bet or more like a Vegas gamble? What's your take?
Yeah, you know what? They do think it's a Vegas gamble, and that's a really great question. The market really can sometimes feel like a casino, but the difference is with the right strategy, you don't have to leave it all to chance. One key factor to look at is called beta, which is essentially the risk or the heartbeat of your portfolio. If it's too high, you might be in for a bumpy ride. So obviously you are expecting the unexpected, but you want to be optimistic. But are you going to be consistent? That's the key.
And Scott, for folks, maybe they're investing for growth, others looking for consistent income. And what's really the difference? And how does somebody decide what's the better route for them?
You know, we spoke about this before. If our listening audience might remember, I like using analogies. I call it the chicken and the egg that comes to mind. Think of it as the chicken as your stock, your bond, your preferred, your BDC, your MLP, your portfolio. And so, of course, think of the chicken, that's vehicle, and the egg is the dividend. And an income portfolio that's designed to make eggs. And the eggs could be by way of dividends or interest. Now, provide a consistent source of income. Yes, that's what we're looking for in that type of investment, the income portfolio. You can collect those eggs and enjoy them, or you could reinvest them by buying more chickens, which means more eggs down the line. So you don't need it now, but maybe you want it down the line. This is a great way to design and tailor-make a portfolio. And, of course, the educated audience out there that's listening right now, that's called reinvestment of dividends. You've heard this all your life, but the question I want to make sure is sometimes the people don't understand that, and I want to keep it as simple as possible because, again, I want to have a lot of dividends coming in that can be reinvested. And this, depending what kind of market we're in, that's what's so important, Alex.
So it sounds like what you're saying, Scott, more chickens, more eggs coming with those chickens. That sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. That's right. And cholesterol free. How about that?
There you go.
Now here's the difference, Alex. Most all people forget. In a growth portfolio, it's a way different story. You're not collecting eggs. You see, you're banking on the chicken getting bigger and bigger over time. This would equate to the growth stocks, small caps, mid caps, which are not designed for dividends, but if they do pay a dividend, the company's not going to pay it out. They're going to reinvest it in their company again to make their company grow. And that's what happens in a growth type stock portfolio when you have these tech stocks. And of course, if you need the income in this type of portfolio, you've got to start selling the chickens, the shares of stock in the portfolio, which will rapidly deplete itself if the market's dropping. Therefore, if the market's down, you've got to sell a lot more chickens, shares of stock, just to get the same income. We talk about that in my book, The Three Blind Mice, because we have an income portfolio that can last the rest of your life. Do you have that? I'm not sure. Now, everybody that is young, like yourself, Alex, and those listeners, maybe the children, they call it dollar cost averaging, where you put the same amount of money in and it grows, and it works. The challenge is when you get older, it's called reverse dollar cost averaging. Not many people are talking about that. And when you look at the portfolio, the beta, the risk factor, in a rising market, everybody's happy, Alex. I know you're happy. You see your portfolio going up. Everybody's happy. They're having a celebration. But in a downturn, you could end up with fewer chickens and no eggs. And therefore, the portfolio evaporates quickly and possibly no chance of coming back because what? You sold off so many shares. And that's not a position anybody wants to be. So I want to caution people. Those that are 73, taking required minimum distributions, may just be in that position, and you're totally unaware of it. You could be in a growth portfolio selling off shares of stock, Alex.
That number, if you are maybe concerned or have questions about how some of this volatility from the past month or so might be affecting your portfolio, that number, 609-488-4646 for Scott McLean, the team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. And what should people be thinking about, Scott, when they hear about this market volatility, the ups and downs? And I mean, how worried should people be about these potential losses?
Well, I would hope they have for those do-it-yourselfers, a good tolerance for risk. But sometimes when you're feeling more nervous than excited, it might be a sign your portfolio is beta. Risk factor is too high. The volatility can be thrilling for some people if you're at a theme park. Yeah. But when it's your retirement, Alex, savings, well, if that's on the line, maybe you're not so excited. So again, it's the person's internal core. Can you handle it or not handle it? But then on top of that, I've got some people calling in and say, Scott, I'd like to buy some these fancy tech stocks, NVIDIA or maybe Carvana went from $4 to $150. These stocks that could be taking off, but these could be wonderful when you're making money. But could they go back down where they started from? Yes. So again, you might want to think about lowering the risk factor. We spoke about it before, jumping off the diving board, a high dive versus the ground level, belly flops hurt. So lowering the beta can really bring some peace of mind to many of you out there listening right now. That's right, you. You may be worried about whether it's what time of year it is. It could be election period. It could be interest rates changes. And you're really maybe losing sleep. Well, how do we not lose sleep? Well, that's where people give our studios a call. And they ask, Scott, can we get together? How can I get some assurances? 609-488-4646 is there for you. By the way, that's our website.com. Again, why is it there for you? Because then you'll speak to myself or George. Our whole team is designed to really, how do we help you design a portfolio that you can relate to, that you can sleep with? A lot of people want 10, 15% rate of returns, especially back in the 80s. But I can promise you this, especially in 1990s to 2000, the market was screaming and no one talked about income. They talked about growth. Well, you want peace of mind when the market dropped from 2000 to 2003, when the market dropped almost 50%, or from 2007 to 2009, where it dropped almost 63%. If you want peace of mind, figure out what risk level you can have. Find out what your portfolio, the beta rating is. That's why people give our studios a call or they come in to visit with us on a one-to-one basis. And I'd love to talk to you off the air, 609-488-4646. Don't put your head on the pillow when it's so in your face. and you could take action, Alex. That's what people should do. I really believe that.
Yeah, and you've mentioned it a few times for folks, and I want to make sure we're not going too high level, but the idea of beta, I know it's something that you feel like maybe isn't discussed enough. Maybe somebody's out there, maybe they have an advisor or somebody who's assisting them, and they haven't heard about this or discussed it. If you could spend just a little bit of time there on the idea of beta and why that's so important.
Understanding beta, I won't go in the woods. Let's talk about riding a bicycle. You got these big bicycles that have big fat wheels. And man, you could imagine yourself riding down the road. It's smooth. And if the road is flat and easy to ride and steady, that is wonderful. But if the road starts to get bumpy with lots of hills and dips, your ride gets a lot tougher. Right, Alex?
Yeah, of course.
And you've got to work much harder to stay balanced. You may have to stand up in your pedals so you don't get the bumps in your butt, but it's not as comfortable. Now think about the road as a stock market. The flat road means the market is stable, not going up and down. It's kind of boring and steady eddy. People love that. But bumpy road means the market goes up and down. It's a lot more volatile. So beta is like a measure of how the bumpy road is in your investments. If the portfolio has a high beta, that means your ride is going to be bumpy, could be very bumpy. Now that could be good for some people, but not everybody. It will go up and down with the market. If it has low beta, your ride is smoother with fewer big ups and downs. So again, if you don't like the bumps, you want a smoother ride, you really want to look at your portfolio to lower the beta. But if you're okay, some of the bumps you might think's okay could really change your destination faster to the good or the bad. So again, let's understand that. Again, the key is knowing how much bumpiness you can handle before you want to get off that bike and say, I'm not getting on again.
Right. 609-488-4646, the number for Scott and his amazing team at McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown, New Jersey, serving Ocean County and beyond. Again, that number 609-488-4646. This is Financial Insanity. Thanks for joining us.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Well, Scott, we know every year we got to file our taxes, and it can be overwhelming, it can be complicated, but there is a proactive approach that pre-retirees should take. There is a difference between getting our taxes prepared and actually tax planning. And we know, Scott, the IRS tax code's full of thousands of sections and definitions, rules, fees, and guess what? Taxpayers legally bound to follow all of them, Scott. So it can be a lot. That's where working with somebody like you at least can help with the whole project and also looking ahead to try to prevent some of those taxes in the future.
Yeah. You think about it, out of 450 words per page on the tax book, which is 2,652 pages of the tax code. The question is, are you getting the biggest bang for your buck? And so whether we're talking about in tax season and out of tax season and preparing, this is important, Alex. You bring up this tax question you asked me because people are not paying attention to it. I'm going to give you a scenario. just today where I was meeting a young woman, helping her mom out and finding out that they were paying the highest tax on their investments. And this was totally undisclosed from their other advisor. I have two advisors, myself and another firm, which they never looked at the tax return, which we're going to talk about.
Well, and that's where it's really important, Scott. And my first question for you is going to be, when do we start thinking about the tax planning for the future? And I know what the answer is going to be, and that's evidence here with the case we're going to discuss. But talk about that a little bit. How do we go about planning for the taxes?
Yeah, for our younger investors, 20 to 40, I would say you really want to pay attention to investing in tax-free information called Roth. I like them, Roth 401k or Roth IRA. It's for older people that have already, maybe you're in retirement already. You've already got your money. Maybe you start talking and thinking about tax planning for, do I do Roth conversions, or is it worth doing Roth conversions? But the most important thing is looking at that tax return on a yearly basis, which is why I built the tax practice in 2008 for our clients. For the season of 2008, because tax returns tells us a lot. And God forbid your husband or wife passed away. Now you go from a joint tax return to an individual tax return. The taxes go up. And how do we avoid that? So tax planning is, when do you start planning? Well, I think you should think about that on a yearly basis. If you're younger, not that big of a deal. Unless you start making a big pay raise, that should be another discussion. And for retirees, this should be on a yearly basis. A quick thought: at the end of the year, you do your tax returns in April. And then, of course, maybe you meet your advisor when he or she asks to see your tax returns, maybe in June, July, August, for that quarterly or semi-annual meeting. That tax return is a viable, critical tool for some of you out there that maybe they're not asking for. They're actually putting you on the shelf because they say, well, I don't do that. Well, that's a problem. Maybe the advisor should call the tax guy before you come in to find out your real situation. This is a problem. Start right away.
Absolutely. And we're talking about trying to limit the tax burden as much as we can in retirement. That number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And Scott, one thing that we do know is that the tax code, not exactly set in stone. It can change from one presidential administration to the next. So, I mean, how important is it? Do you discuss taking advantage of current tax planning opportunities before possible changes in policy?
You better out there pay attention to that. We've got the sunset rule coming out in 2025 where a lot is changing. 2025, a lot is changing, where we have the standard deduction, which is really yummy and very been beneficial. Well, that's coming off the table. And so when the federal tax break in 2025 comes off, I can promise you there is going to call the sunset. That's going to be a problem. So when you look at the tax code, that does change. It's changed since the very beginning. High to low to high to low. Reagan jumped in, they lowered it. But the question is, okay, now that we know what the tax code is, how do we plan? Not let's plan and then, oops, the tax code is there. You've got to look at this almost like a wonderful concert at the studio. When you go out and listen to music, is somebody off key or not? You know they're off key because if you're a musician. Well, the question is your portfolio off key causing you excessive taxes? And this is why the tax code and why the advisor doesn't have to be a tax person, but should at least call their accountant, know more, a little bit about taxes. I mean, that's just our business. As a fiduciary, you need to know about taxes. And then if you don't know the answer, then call somebody who's a lot smarter. But this is a big problem. Often I notice because they're unaware.
Scott, the age when someone has to start taking their required minimum distributions, RMDs, now 73 years old. Now, what impact can these RMDs have on taxes?
Well, Alex, I think we did one workshop together, one radio show on Social Security. Yep. So frankly, when you take out Social Security, you may not be paying any tax on it and your tax return looks yummy. Then all of a sudden you get a little older. Boom, you hit that wonderful age mark of 73, and now you have to take out your required minimum distribution. For those of you out there, use a simple number of 4%. How much is it going to be? Well, let's say you had $400,000 in a retirement plan. 4 times 4 is about $16,000, a little bit less, but use that for a good benchmark. So when you start taking out that 4% every year, it gets larger. Well, now if you're married have a spouse, you're filing joint, it might not affect you as much, but it could. But now all of a sudden, what happens if one of you pass away? Well, now you're a single, and now that could cause excessive taxes. So RMDs can be a large impact. And I can tell you, when we look at the tax returns, which is why I built the tax practice, God forbid one of our clients, the spouses, dies, we have to have that come to Jesus meeting saying, okay, here's what we need to plan for now. This is a big deal, Alex.
It absolutely is, Scott. And I want you to give that number here for folks and discuss, the fact that taxes, it is something that it's important for your practice, especially for your office. Something like you said, you established the group in 2008 to focus on it. And so just discuss how this is something that, your team has been involved with intimately for years and is right there to help discuss for folks that they're looking to help limit this in the future.
For our financial clients, we actually built the tax practice, as I said, in 2008. We started in 2007. And, of course, that's after the big debacle of the stock market. And thank goodness people moved over to us. We preserved their money. We did a great job on a lot of different areas. But the tax returns was really very helpful when I started that, because I was concerned about our clients. And most people are unaware of taxes and don't like them and don't want to pay for them. So how can we get the biggest bang for the buck? And we just spoke about required minimum distributions, retirement, pension plans could change it. So we really need to be aware of that. You don't have to know how the electricity goes from the light pole to the switch, but you should know when you turn the switch on or off, how much excessive taxes are you going to pay? And this is to keep it real simple, as I think when I was talking to you earlier, Alex, today. How do we keep taxation simple? Let's dummy it down. But it can get really, with 4,000 pages, it can really get very, very challenging. And then people put their head in the sand and say, forget it, I'll just pay the tax. That's not good for me. So people need to be aware of that, Alex.
609-488-4646, the number for Scott and his team, McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Scott, a couple minutes left here in this segment. If you could go over, obviously protecting the confidentiality of the client, but go over a little bit of discussion you had recently and how that kind of, is relevant to our discussion here today.
So I have a client, a wonderful, lovely lady. Her husband passed away. Now she is filing single, and her daughter is involved, and they have two advisors, myself and another firm. What I found out today was that this client had a lot of money with that firm. They never disclosed it to me, and that's fine. So my tax planning really wasn't out there. Well, she just sold a huge property and made a tremendous amount of profit. And now the daughter is asking me, Scotty, I want to pull out money from my mom, and I want to pull it out on a monthly basis, and she's going to need to make up about $30,000 on a yearly basis. How do we do it? I said, let's go a quick summary, and I went through the summary. How much do we have? How much do we have in CDs, IRAs, 401ks? How much money are we pulling out? Well, Scott, you know that information. Yes, I do. But I just want to ask it again. And then, of course, I discovered that they had another $1 million with some other advisor, which is fine. I was happy for them. But I asked the question, your mom needs $30,000. Where is the money and how can she pull it out? And she said, well, Scott, all I'm seeing is that she's getting dividends and she's getting interest, but I don't know how to read the statement. Bottom line, let's say you're the client and you want to pull money out. Let's say you want to pull out $20,000 a year. Well, $20,000 a year, let's say on $400,000 at a 5% return on your money. Let's say we buy a CD at 5% on $400,000, there's $20,000. 3 different ways to invest. CDs and annuities. They're paying nice interest rates. Annuities will pay a longer period of time and give you a longer interest rate, 3 to 5 years. And of course, CDs won't pay as long. Let's say it's 5%, $20,000. That is all on the taxable line. 100% will be taxed. Now, let's say we go to a dividend, a non-qualified dividend. Well, the maximum non-qualified dividend could be up to 37% versus a qualified dividend, 20%. Let me break the numbers down. Would you like to pay tax on $20,000? Would you like to pay tax on $1,600 or tax on $800? That tells me where they need to invest. in the non-qualified tools. So it doesn't need to be the areas. Now, the question is, are you a stomach for risk or not risk? And that we have that discussion. So again, I'm not sure where your tax situation is, but in her case, she was about to pay how she was going to invest that money, $4,000, when she only had to pay $800 after tax on that investment. This is a huge difference why the advisor needs to pay attention to taxes. And if you haven't looked at that and the advisor hasn't, which I asked her, I said, when you spoke to your advisor that's handling the positions, what did they say? Well, they never brought up taxes. Well, did they tell you the dividend ratio? Yes, we're getting $15,000 in dividends based on her portfolio. She was getting a dividend of 1.75% on the dividend. That's meager. So this is why you need to invest either for income or growth and how much you want to have at risk. So could be different. I don't know about
Great
you.
example. Yeah.
But less taxes,
Yeah.
it's good for me.
I'm for that. I am for that. If you're for that, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Well, there are more than 1 million tax preparers in the United States, so no shortage of help when it comes to tax time. But how do you find the right help with tax planning for your retirement? That's next.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
A survey found that about half of taxpayers used paid tax professionals. But who should we turn to when it comes to tax planning in retirement? Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, here to talk about the different types of financial professionals and the benefits of working with a retirement planner, because there is a difference, right, Scott?
Huge difference. Yeah. I guess what I've found in my practice, whether you're working with an advisor who doesn't even look at the tax returns, well, that means you're left to do it yourself, and that could cause excessive work and maybe not knowing the questions to ask. Then you might be working with a financial advisor who does do taxes in their firm, and they do just the taxes. You put the information and they plug it in. But then the question is there a consultation after that meeting or not after that meeting? Now, if there is, the question is investments. When we look at the investments, how are the investments taxed? Now, you might be going to a financial planner that has a CFP, which is great, qualified financial planner. Maybe it's a CPA, a tax preparer that also is a financial planner. He could have both, which is great as well. And then maybe you have the PFS, called Personal Financial Specialist, again, with the credentials, again, looking at the full spectrum of the investments. That's great. Even better. Now, as a registered investment advisor or a advisor that is under a registered investment advisor, of course, we have fiduciary rules under the SEC, and so we have to follow those fiduciary standards, which is important to follow those. So this is really essential in my practice because we are under those registered investment advisory rules. And an advisor, we have to look at all the areas. Now, if a client doesn't want to share all the areas, well, then my hands are tied. But if they really want to come clean and say, here's what's going on in my life, whether they have one advisor, two advisors, maybe they do it themselves, or maybe they just want to wing it and call it a day. The comprehensive study on these areas of taxes along with their investment is where the attitude shifts towards financial planning. And I think this is why you want to find a guy or a gal in the retirement world that's going to look at those areas. But I take it one step further, Alex, which I know you didn't ask. But what if you pass away? We call the 3D approach, the dreams, the dollars, and the dynasty. How does the taxation going to pass on to the kids? Earlier this morning, I had a discussion with the special needs father and mother. They have one son, and the money's going to pass on. Okay, did they set up the trust? Did they set up? This is, again, leading into the dynasty. So how does your tax implications going to pass on to the kids, or in this case, a special need kid? And again, this is a conversation. This is not a sales planning meeting. This is, are you a fit for our firm or not? If you're looking for a quick one-off sale, maybe you want somebody to call you every day to find the hottest, latest stock, that's not our firm. That's not what we do. We do more in-depth studies on how can I really make this person just buckled up, bulletproof as best as I can. And with the information they give me, how can we really reduce taxes, make sure their estate is buttoned up nice and tight. So when they passed away, the business transfers to the kids, or maybe their assets transfers. How do you want it transferred? And this is the legal part on top of the taxation part. So it's sorry, Alex, for the big answer.
How
but
dare
this
you?
is not a simple question just on taxes. Because
No.
people don't like paying taxes. I don't either.
No, absolutely. And I appreciate that information. What I want, too, is that number, Scott, if people want to get a hold of you.
So I'd love to hear from you. 609-488-4646.com is our website. Again, a simple call our office and no cost, no obligation, 609-488-4646. If you have questions, I'm sure I have answers. And if I don't, I will get them. But I think I have the answers.
We're talking today about preserving your retirement from taxes. And Scott, if you're somebody here, you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to be retiring in the next few years. What are some things this person should be considering, especially when it comes to their taxes?
First thing is, what's the medical expenses going to be? Not only taxes. Number two, do you or do you not take money from a certain investment? You see, you might be in retirement. This might be your last year, 2024, 2025, 2026, and you're about to retire. You may say, let's defer as much income from my planning because I've got plenty of money in my other investments. Now you can reduce taxes now, and now when you're retired, you have no FUCA tax, Social Security tax. Your taxation is less because you're not taking income. So now how do we tax the dividends? Qualified, non-qualified. How do we tax the CDs? How do we tax the long-term, short-term capital gains? This leads into the discussion. If I'm about to retire, okay, when's the retirement? Let's look at the tax return. Let's look at the income, and let's figure out, should we defer or not defer money? If you're in retirement, this says, okay, how do we pull money out of the tax-deferred account? Could be a Roth IRA. It could be an IRA, which should be higher, which goes be totally taxed. It could be non-qualified money, or it could be qualified dividends versus non-qualified dividends. So if you're out there and scratching your head saying, what the fingernails did Scott just say? What? This is why you might want to give us a call off, in our show, radio show here at 609-488-4646. I can define it more, but again, with the limited time I have, this is not just a one-off subject. This is a planning subject. So whether you're planning now in retirement, or maybe you have 2 or 3 years, Alex, that's a great question. When do you start planning for this? Well, it depends when you're going to retire, but you should be looking at taxation on a yearly basis and how can you best get the biggest bang for your buck. I believe we should be taxed, but fairly,
Sure.
not unfairly.
Yeah. There are some things that we all need, but like you said, I just want to pay my fair share, no more than that. And yeah, we can discuss what fair means too, probably. But
Exactly.
that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, is it ever too late to get started on tax planning?
It's never too late to do any kind of planning. Unless you're dead, then you can't do any planning.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
That's probably the worst time. But yeah, you should do tax planning. If not, depending on what size your state is. I mean, if you don't have that much money, maybe there's not much tax planning. If
Sure.
you're in retirement and you don't have a windfall profit, somebody died, you inherited money from your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your kids maybe passed away early, and you receive IRA money versus non-IRA money, this is a discussion. But if you don't see a big change in your income, okay, maybe there's not much allowed. But again, you maybe win the lottery. This is a discussion. So again, each person's different. Everyone's not a cookie cutter, but I can tell you the tax return tells or can lead a really wise investment advisor who is tax prone, who wants to understand, can I reduce taxes? Legal mind, how can we pass money on? This is probably the right place for you at McLean Advisory Group.
And that number for Scott and his team, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And Scott, I know this is it's a tough question, but it's something to think about. But I mean, we're going to create a plan that addresses the taxes in the future, but how the heck do we do that when we don't know what the tax policy is going to be in 20, 30 years?
You stump me. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because I think we can plan on taxes. Usually when a president puts a tax plan in place, it will stick. We have a plan coming off the table now, 2025, the sunset rules. That's going to really affect people's taxes in a very bad way. So maybe we know this is happening in another year. So when do you do it? Probably this year. So if we know what's coming down the line, hopefully it's not approved or voted for. But if it is or isn't, you can do a little bit of planning. If this approves, this is the game plan. If this isn't approved, this is the game plan. So again, Alex, that's a good question, thinking about in the future, but they usually give us heads up. This is why Congress, I don't believe, should be able to play in the stock market, because they have heads up before we do. I think that's wrong. Well, when it comes to taxes, how do we play the game? Listen to what's going on. The financial advisor or your tax advisor should be aware. And by the way, if you're out there and you have your own business, I'm going to make a plug for a company called Bradford Tax Institute. Bradford Tax Institute. If you're a self-employed or have your great firm and you're building, you want to reduce taxes, they've got a great periodical, very condensed, very helpful. I make nothing from this promo at all. They're not paying me, but I want to make it very clear to you. It's a great, there's a lot of periodicals. This guy's on the ball. So again, Bradford Tax Institute could be a great resource for you self-employed people.
If you have questions about that or anything else, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, just a little bit of time left, and talking about Social Security today, talking about taxes, and when it comes down to you, and sorry to date you, but somebody's celebrating a 41st work anniversary, I think it's significant because it speaks to the time that you've been around, the decades that you've seen, and you're somebody who can help discuss a comprehensive retirement strategy.
We did just what you're saying, Alex, being in this business as long as I have, and I don't know what I would do. I love this business. I love helping people that want to be helped, by the way. There's some people who just listen to you and they blow off the knowledge. That's why I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice. It really guides people through the challenges in the world. And I went back to 1982, 83 when I got licensed, and I go through that on the Three Blind Mice book. Now, by the way, if you come in and visit with me, I'll give you a book. Visit with me, have an appointment, do the CFQ. We'll be able to help you. But I think what's important on everything, listen to me right now. If you're not looking comprehensively at your total portfolio, whether you're married or single, maybe you have disabled children, maybe your husband or wife is disabled, What kind of planning do you need? And this is why the comprehensive study, the dreams, the dollars, and the dynasty is so important to look at those three aspects, because it takes you and look at you holistically, not simplistically. Because simplistic is, I'll do the tax returns, goodbye. Oh, I'll invest some money, goodbye. This dog don't hunt. We need to take an understanding of what you're doing and what's going on. And life has a way of changing all the time. Today you're healthy. Tomorrow you can't get out of bed. Okay, we need a game plan. This is important to discuss, Alex.
And what's that number, Scott?
609-488-4646. Give me a call off the air at our studios, 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. Love to share some information with you. And if you feel it apropos to come in, I think you would love the time you spend at our firm.
Thank you, my friend. And another friend of ours coming on, we'll have David Connolly, special guest joining us, talk about special needs and some information that you need to know around that. So that is coming up here on Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off
that's right.
the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
Oh, that's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
McLean Advisory Group is so thankful for our veterans and the sacrifices they've made over the years. We're going to talk today about some programs aiming to help these great veterans with daily activities, medical expenses, and more. Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. I'm Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean.
That's right.
Today, we have a good friend of his, Robert Brown, retired Navy veteran for over 20 years. He was a chief petty officer for the Persian Gulf, and now Veterans Service Officer helping folks. Robert, thank you so much for serving this great country and for continuing to help folks find those great benefits.
My pleasure.
That is awesome. And Scott, I know you guys have quite the history, and you like each other a little bit. You work together, you like each other, and that's a good mix, right, Scott?
Once in a while.
It is a good mix. His wife's beautiful family, took his family out on the boat. We just had some fun together. So the neatest thing is how it started as we were helping our veterans. I took a class, as I mentioned in our previous show, about the aid and attendance pension benefit, which that benefit for whether you're in a nursing home or you're at home. I mean, that benefit is really, really beneficial. My daddy was served in Korea. My grandfather served in World War II, and I am a 4F, not a Dodger. I'm a 4F. In other words, I didn't qualify because of surgeries on my body before when I tried to go in, but that was the rule in the McLean house. But notwithstanding, the aid and attendance benefit on our previous show talked about, could you get benefits whether you're at home or not because you're sick or disabled, or maybe you need to go into the facility like Vineland, Paramus, Menlo Park. There's great facility. One of the best ones, I believe, in New Jersey is Vineland. But this program today, we spoke about that as a previous program, but this program today is for our veterans that serve And there's two types of benefits, the two types of benefits that Robert is very well of. And Robert is 100% disabled veteran benefit, not because he's ugly and I'm better looking, but because he's actually, this is not textbook, this is real world. And of course, the lawyer in our office also is 100% disabled benefit, getting these wonderful benefits. There's a connected benefit, service connected benefit, and there's a non-service connected benefit. And Robert, if we looked at the service connected versus non-service, we talk about the aid and attendance benefit, which is a wonderful benefit for those of you or your parents. You need to know about it. You need to ask us. And by the way, if you don't know about that, the number is 609-488-4646. Please feel free to give our studios a call if you have any questions. We'll get you in touch with Robert or someone that can handle your calls. If I'm busy, I don't want to miss your call. 609-488-4646. But Alex, we're talking about this connected benefits. Rob, there's two types of benefits. Let's give a summary of this other benefit we talk about. Well, you see on TV all the time this benefit down in Camp Lejeune. We've been doing this thing for how many years, Robert? Since 2008.
Sure, a long time.
And I have one of our gentlemen in our church who has spina bifida, which comes from the water, Camp Lejeune, and he, as child of a veteran, didn't know he qualified. And when I mentioned to him, he says, "I don't believe it." And so, of course, now he believes it. Robert, there's a lot of benefits. Let's go ahead and break it down as quick as you can.
Sure.
As we think about this great benefit.
Okay. So generally the way this works is if you wore a uniform for some period of time, however long that was, and you got injured doing anything, it could have been your hand, your finger, your eye, your leg, your knee, what have you, and that's recorded somewhere in your medical record, then you report that. The big question to the VA before they'll pay you any compensation, this is the term, it's not a pension. This form is called a compensation. Before they pay you any compensation of money, they have to figure out, did this happen when you were in uniform, while you were active duty, or did it not? So if you were out of service and discharged, and you got in a car accident, it's, quote, a non-service connected issue, and the VA will not pay that. So it had to have happened or started, or at least exacerbated while you were in the service in the uniform. So is this a service connected benefit? That's what has to be determined first. And the VA does a process to figure that out. Once that's done, they say, okay, here's your problem. I understand. I'm going to send you to a third-party adjudicator to figure out, to confirm the severity of that problem, if it's hearing, again, if it's a broken leg, what have you, and where do we go from there? Is it a recurring problem, or is it a problem that's been fixed and now you're 100% better? Again, no compensation. But if there's still an existing issue, then the VA will pay this compensation of a certain percentage, equating to a certain amount of dollars every single month, again, tax-free.
And Scott, you've been helping people with their finances for over 40 years, but also very importantly, since 2008, you've been specifically helping people with their benefits if they're veterans, as you opened up the Veterans Benefit Advisory Group back in 2008. And we're talking today with Robert Brown, retired Navy Chief Petty Officer, served for 20 years, and now is a Veterans Service Officer. And guys, we have a few minutes left, and I know we're talking about some known benefits, some unknown benefits. What maybe are some other benefits or opportunities for folks that people should know about?
Well, there's a number of them. Some of them are, if you wanted dental care, you can get that. Not necessarily a particular benefit, but a benefit from having served. If you had dental issues, you can apply for a certificate of eligibility for a home loan. There are burial benefits that many people don't know about, as far as funeral services, costs incurred, the veterans cemetery, the plot, the grave marker, some of those. There's a spousal benefit that you can get for the spouses of the veteran who passed away. Again, a monthly basis for payment of that. Surviving spouse benefit, they called. Or there's dependent education benefits for the children of some of those veterans. For example, my daughter is going to Stockton University as a, quote, cut rate because the VA pays part of her education based upon my disability. So she's the recipient of my service and gets those benefits for her college education. So spouse dependent education benefits there. My wife could go to school if she would choose to because of the disability status that I'm at. And again, all of this is a monthly benefit, non-taxable. You don't talk about it to the accountants.
And Robert, I want to interject real quick because I think it's very important the number 609-488-4646. But the point that this is great information for veterans, but also veterans' families as well. That's something for folks that are listening out there. There's opportunities for the families of veterans also. Again, that number is 609-488-4646. Robert, Scott, please continue. Got a couple moments left here. Very important stuff.
Couple things that hit my mind that I don't think we brought up. I can't find my dad's records. I can't find the DD-214. I don't know what to do. Robert, what do they do? Because this is a reason not to follow up because you don't know what to do. B, a reason to put it off and maybe I'll get to it later. It's almost like putting your Christmas tree up on December 24th because you don't have any money. Well, that's what I did when I was broke. But this is different. This is a benefit for life. Robert, I can't find the records. What do we do?
Okay, so to answer that really is talk to me. All right, tell me what you know and tell me what you don't know. And I say that because if you don't know how to get your record, and again, this could be the military discharge document, DD-214, or the War Department, the WD document, or it could be I don't have medical records from when I was in. I was in Agent Orange, and when we got discharged, we just sent us home, and I wanted to get out of the Vietnam, so I just left. I never got my records, my medical records, to prove any of my disability, so we could start from there. The answer is come and talk to us. I know exactly where we submit to. I know the documents to submit for. We just do a couple documents, submit it, it comes in the mail, and we begin. So if you don't have documents, that's okay. We'll get them. And it's as simple as that. We know where to lead everyone to get this benefit. You start with that. You need the foundation. Then we proceed forward with an application and submission.
I think the worst thing I find out with veterans, being in this business now 40 plus years, my dad did pass away within 5 days when he had leukemia. Mom passed away in 3 months, and we never went for the benefit. I frankly never knew about this benefit until I was invited to school. I thought there was a scam, and they said, well, you pay $2,500, come to our school, learn about these benefits. I really honestly thought it was a scam. Dave Conley, one of our attorneys that we work with on estate planning, said, Scotty, what's $2,500 when you can help vets? And he always calls me a draft dodger, even though I wasn't, because I was 4F'd.
Yeah, the good friends give you the hardest time. That's for sure.
They do. They are. We've been together since 1984, Dave Conley and I. And the funniest thing, the wonderful most thing is I did go to school and I said, holy mackerel, every financial advisor should be asking the question, are you a veteran? Was your husband or wife a veteran? Maybe they passed away. Was your mom and dad a veteran? This is part of the estate planning process, Alex. As I meet with people, I'm asking lots of questions. They're asking, why are you asking these questions? Because I'm looking for benefits they are totally unaware of. I'm looking to reduce taxes, the best benefit. I'm looking to make their life much more pleasant. So when they retire, they don't worry about running out of money. They enjoy their lifestyle. And that's why I added this veterans benefit in there, because they didn't take me, Alex. And I felt guilty because that's the whole thing in the McLeans. All the McLeans have to join. That was the rule. And they didn't take me. And I frankly was scared to call my dad, saying they turned me down. They 4F'd me.
Sure.
But the moment I told him, I applied to every single facility, whether the Army, Navy, Marines, which I went for first. Every one of them turned me down. I didn't know they shared records. And then all of a sudden, I was afraid to call my dad. When I called him, he said, okay, son, no big deal. I thought I was going to get drilled down, because his goal and the family was to drill down people to find out the best way possible. Now, Robert, as we close on this subject, as a veteran, you've seen people apply, you've seen people get denied. And then they say, well, I applied, I did it myself, and I didn't get approved. And because they didn't get help. What do you say?
Well, first of all, I say you may not have completed every single document in every single line entry that the VA wants. So they don't explain the discrepancy on your document. They just send it back and say, sorry, not approved. So it becomes very important to know exactly what forms to fill out, exactly where to sign, how to answer the questions in order to get approved at the VA level. And based upon expertise here, that's how you get it through. We've had one claim who got approved, and Scott could verify. from start to finish in 10 days.
That was a miracle, though. That was
10
days.
days.
Don't expect
Phenomenal.
that, guys. This was a miracle. I told you very clearly, but that was wonderful.
It was.
Well,
She started coming in. The wife came in. The husband's like,
A Marine
his
Corps
noodles went. The Marine Corps vet. His noodles went south. He was getting flashbacks. He came in. She was crying. Didn't know what to do. They were burning cash. They were going to the nursing home. She came in from hearing me from other people. She came in within. And I will tell you this, I don't know how it happened so quick. I've never seen it, but it is out there. It is real as long as you do it correct, guys.
Yep.
Alex?
Yep. Thank you.
And you need some guidance. And that's really what we're out here for. We're to guide you to where you need to be based upon your service and your commitment in military.
Thank you.
And that's where it is. And again, serving vets is ideal and in my heart every single day.
Thank you so much for that. Great way to close. And again, if you need help, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Great guest today, Veteran Service Officer Robert Brown. Robert, again, thank you for being a guest today. More importantly, thank you for serving our nation.
You're welcome.
Thanks, buddy.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.